All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's installment of loans that can actually help realtors gain more business and how to market them and um, how to utilize this information. I'm Paula Hune, your host. I'm with Funding America Mortgage. Um, as a broker, I try to use all of these techniques as well to help my buyers get the best program that fits their needs the best. Today, we are going to be tackling the down payment assistance loan, right? We're stacking that cash. And we're also going to talk about some truths behind using these programs and the effects that they're going to have on your job as a realtor as well, and some things that I feel realtors really need to understand when we're dealing with any type of down payment assistance program. So let's jump into it because, again, I love that you guys are here and I love that you're watching this if it's on the replay. But I want to honor your time and not make this an hour long. All right. So today we're tackling topics that get thrown around a lot, right? Down payment assistance. And if you've been in this business long enough, you've probably heard clients, agents talk about it like it's free money falling from the sky. I'm here to help you see the reality, the good, the bad, and the sometimes complicated. Because yes, there are some amazing programs out there, but they come with fine print, timelines, structures that we as professionals need to understand if we want these deals to actually close. So my goal today isn't for you to memorize every single program. It's to help you learn how to talk about them intelligently when you're dealing with your clients without overpromising and setting false expectations. All right. So the first thing to know is down payment assistance does not mean free money. Each program exists to help make home ownership possible for people who are close, but not quite there yet. Maybe they have income, but limited savings, or strong credit, but a short work history. But there's always a trade off, whether it's a tighter qualification rules, second liens, longer approval times, so our role is to balance hope with honesty, to show clients what's possible without pretending it's easy. So first things first, there's hundreds of programs out there. Okay, and it is the truth. Um, all of almost all of them fail into fail. Almost all of them fall into one of these three types of buckets, right? So you have your state-run programs. These typically offer big money. So like in New Jersey, like there's several different levels that you can fall into, which can cover a lot, if not all, of the closing costs and down payments. Um, I know PA has some really great programs. They have a lot of programs actually, and Delaware as well, right? Those are the three states I'm licensed in. So those are the ones I know. We're not going to dive deep into each one in detail because we'd be here forever. Basically, that's usually where people start first when they're talking about first time home buyer programs or getting money. Okay. What you have to do is if it's not me, if it's another lender, you just want to make sure that they really know the program and the nuances. I highly recommend having a conversation with them. If they say, "Oh yeah, we're going to use this program," ask them, have they gone through all of the different, you can call them guidelines, or you could say, "Did you look at the matrices?" Okay? If you throw that word, if they're a good lender, they're gonna know what that means, and they're gonna say, "Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did." Um, if they did, hopefully they say yes. Um, you just ask your questions to make sure that that client actually does qualify for those state-run programs, because when I tell you there are a lot of nuances, it's like reading a whole new set of guidelines, in a lot of these states, right? And if you have one thing off, it can cost a lot of time, it can cost the deal, and it can really damage, um, a lot with the home buying process. The next one are your county or city programs, right? These are typically this amount of money is a lot smaller, um, typically, okay, but it's more localized. Excuse me. So what that means is It's going to come with a lot of, it's going to come with less oversight, meaning we don't have to send the package anywhere for final approval typically, or if we do, it's easy because there's usually with these programs some sort of pre-approval stuff you have to do first, right? Sometimes in some places, I know in Philadelphia, the Philly First, you actually have to get qualified for that program first before you even shop around for a house. And a lot of counties, they are switching to that type of mentality where you got to know that you can qualify for this money before you even look for a home. You're not allowed to go under contract and then apply. Okay. But these often come with very conservative debt to income limits. All right. Then this is going to impact your buyer's choices in their home as it impacts their buying power. Ultimately, it's going to also impact what you'll get paid. I hate to bring it up, but we don't do this job for free. That's I mean, we don't. We wanna help as many people, and it's not always about the money, but you gotta get paid something, right? So here's the math. Just want you guys to get clear, right? So if a borrower wants to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, which is typically what we hear a lot of, let's say they make 4,500 a month and they pay $500 in credit card debt or car loan or whatever. Without any county program or any down payment assistance, they could potentially afford up to a $2,500 mortgage. With a county program, typically they would be down to a payment of 1435 a month. That's $1,435. That's a significant, it's $1,000 difference in their qualified payment. Imagine what that's doing to the sale price. Which homes that are 3-bedroom, 2-bath are you showing these clients that would get them down to a $1,400 payment a month? Okay. This makes your job harder when you're limited to a lower payment. You might have to look outside their comfort zone of where they want to live. You might have to have them cut different features that they want in order to get these programs. So I want to mention that because when we say it's a, conservative debt to income limit, that's going to impact more than just, okay, the mortgage. It's going to impact what houses you can show them. All right. Which is why whenever I do quote a client for a down payment assistance program, I make sure I compare it to them not using a program at all because it's important for them to see that number and how much of a difference getting this money is. And, regardless if they absolutely need the money or not, it's good to know the numbers. Okay. Now, the third type of grant or down payment assistance is from nonprofit or private programs. So, like from your employer, from United Way. Eh, I know the Urban League of Philadelphia has a program. Like, there's a lot of different smaller programs out there that are true grants. They're more considered like gifts. Okay. Excuse me. So we're going to add that to that client's assets rather than put it in as a second lien. And we're going to talk about the different liens in a little bit. So once you understand that these three types, it's a lot easier to recognize which one makes sense for your buyer to use. Okay. So let's first tackle state programs. State programs are the heavy hitters. Okay. Again, they usually offer the most assistance, sometimes up to tens of thousands of dollars. But that comes with an extra level of approval, additional paperwork, and then again, it's a much tighter guidelines. Because they're state funded, there's oversight, documentation checks, and often longer timelines that we as lenders have no control over. There's not a person that we can call and yell at and say, "Hey, get this done now." Right? It's the state. They work on their own timeline. They also put a second lien on the property. All right. So this means it could impact the borrower's ability to refinance later. Why this is important, especially right now, is because if the rates drop significantly and we're able to offer a savings in their monthly mortgage payment and they have this second lien on there, their house may not have built enough equity to one, even do the refinance. And so they can't make the savings. Or two, there still might not be enough. We might not even be able to pay off that second lien because most of the state programs don't allow you to do something called resubordinate. meaning where they would stay in that second lien position and not have to be paid off. They typically would have to get paid off. So again, not saying don't ever use it, just saying it's something that you need to consider when using this program. Because honestly, like these are amazing tools for the right client, especially first time home buyers with stable income. But it's really not a good fit for someone who needs to close quickly or someone who's trying to stretch their budget. It's not. And sometimes we need to have those hard conversations and say, like, maybe we need to rent for another couple months because it might not be in the right time. All right. So now, county programs. County and city programs are usually a little easier to work with. Most of the time, there's less red tape and fewer extra steps, or that red tape and fewer extra steps are done before they even get the mortgage, before they even get pre-approved for a mortgage. They have to go through their whole approval process, probably work out some training, go to a first time home buying seminar, something like that. So the catch is they tend to offer less money and it's a tighter debt to income limit. Some even require buyers to be approved for the program before they start house hunting. And like the state programs, they're typically recorded as a second lien. And again, this can limit refinancing or combining with other assistance later because you're not able to stack a county program and a state program because they have to be in second lien position. They're not going to stay in that, they're not going to go in that third lien position. If you have a question about lien positions, feel free to call me, message me. I'll explain it a little bit in more detail. But these you can't stack. You have to use either or. All right. But these are also great options for buyers willing to plan ahead and follow the process. Um, Especially if they're looking for in different areas. All right. So the third thing is use it, or this is something I didn't mention at the beginning. So this is financing or down payment assistance loans. Okay. So there's a lot of these programs out there that realtors don't even know about. I guarantee you, your lenders don't even know about. So this next group isn't technically a grant. Okay. It is a loan-based program. And these can be true 100% financing options or down payment assistance loan. The difference is that the funds, they're often forgivable over a certain amount of time or repayable for up to 5, 10, 12, 15, sometimes 30 years, right? Sometimes just goes along with the regular mortgage. So again, you have a first and a second, and usually it'll cover your down payment, maybe a little bit of the closing costs. If there's a broker fee, a little bit of the broker fee, or things like that. The cool thing about these programs is that they follow standard FHA or conventional guidelines. And yes, you can get them for FHA and conventional. They can close much faster because of that, because they're offered through the lender itself. Um, and in a lot of cases, they don't even require the buyer to be a first time home buyer. So this is really good to know when you have someone who's trying to sell their house or move up, or maybe they got divorced a year ago, they've been renting for a year. So technically they're not a first time home buyer, or they sold their home a year ago. And again, they're not technically a first time home buyer. Um, they can still get some sort of assistance to help them purchase the house. And these are a great balance between access and flexibility, but they're still loans. They're not giveaways. Okay. So again, we have to take a look at that. And it is something that I would compare. Again, this is without the program, this is with the program, and let the client pick and choose which way they want to go. I will also tell you these programs, these loans, a lot of them do go down in their credit. Um, so I would say, yes, you might be able to find something for a client who does not have very perfect credit, um, and who does not meet the state or county credit limits. However, it's going to be more expensive in the long run. So sometimes it doesn't always work. So it goes into that bucket of just because they can doesn't mean they should. unless it works. All right. So now we're going to the last type, which is your nonprofit or employer grants. Finally, these are true grants. They don't have to be paid back. There's no liens against it. These are actually going into the assets of the client. So usually they're offered by nonprofits, churches, employers, places like that. They don't create a lien. They don't have to be paid. The amounts are smaller, but they can be stacked with other programs. At least give buyers a little extra cushion for closing costs or reserves. So, you know, what my recommendation is to look at your farm area, contact the local churches, tell them who you are, tell them what you do, and flat out ask them, what assistance do you give your parishioners, your people who come to your church to help them purchase a home? And if it's none, fine. Maybe you can say, hey, I would love to give a home buying seminar to you and set one up. If they do offer something, get the details of it. Find out more. Then again, offer to do a home buying seminar at the church. That's an awesome way to get business. All right. And to connect again with your community. Same thing with nonprofits in the area. If you're familiar with a nonprofit, ask them, hey, do you help out people with buying a home? Right. And if they say no, be like, do you know of any other nonprofits that do? Because I'm telling you, nonprofits do communicate with other nonprofits. There's groups and chat rooms and things like that, and they might be able to find something for you. Sometimes, though, you got to understand that by adding these to a loan file, it can change the underwriting type. So, whereas it would be, and I'm sure you've heard the term an AE approval or an approved eligible to a manual underwrite. Okay, it'll go from an automatic underwrite to a manual underwrite. And all that means is just means more of a human review. It's not an automatic decline, but we're going to really dive into that credit history. We're really going to look at the income. It would help if they already rent. We're going to probably get a rental, a rental history. So just know that again, that can delay closing. Okay. Or that can make it harder to close. I can't really guarantee you it can cause a delay, but it could, right? It's going to make it a little harder. There's more levels that we have to get through. I'll be honest though, these are some of my favorites because they're clean and they are flexible. And they reward buyers who take the time to ask the right questions. And I think it is kind of cool that you can stack them. I had when I had a team of loan officers, I had a loan officer working with a client who literally did stack everything. So they used the state program, or I think they used the down payment grant program. And then they knew of all, they were a realtor. So they knew of all the smaller grants from their nonprofits and churches and just added and added and added, and their out-of-pocket cost was like nothing. So those are really, really fabulous opportunities to take advantage of. But you got to do a little bit of research. All right. Now let's talk about the reality check, please. So again, we already talked about it. You can't stack multiple state and county programs because they won't take a third lien position. That means if one program already has a lien, you can't add another on top. The extra layers of approval, they can slow down the process, and sometimes that makes these programs tough in a competitive offer situation. So your offer, maybe it's even higher, than they get, that may not get the attention from the seller that you wanted because they're worried it's not going to close on time. Okay. You have to be able to make sure and prove that they're a strong buyer. So that's why having conversations with your lender, having your lender call the listing agent and explain that that their experience with this is can help. Okay, but there are some sellers out there that have a very negative connotation when accepting an offer where the buyer's using a program. Refinancing later can be limited until the lien is paid off or sometimes forgiven. And that hurts. That hurts your integrity because yes, it got the client into the house. Um, but now they can't take advantage of rate drops or the equity because they can't refinance And that's sometimes what we use to sell the home, right? Oh, you want to do upgrades, you could do, this, that, and the other thing later down the line and use the equity to pay to use that. Well, they can if they are 100% financed. We're not in the age where, people their equity is growing 20, 30, 40, 50% in a year. We're back down to reality of, between 2 to 8% a year in appreciation. So which is a little bit more, depending on your area is going to be very different, but I mean, that's not a lot in a 1 or 2 year period. So that's not always the best thing. I know as realtors, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around that. And that's not good or bad, but you got to look at the whole, you want to keep these clients forever. These are your clients. Even once the keys are in hand, they're still your clients. You want to make sure you're protecting them down the road. You don't want them to think, oh, Susie sold me this home, made me get this program, and now I'm stuck with it. While their friends and neighbors are refinancing, much lower interest rates. So when we talk to buyers, we have to position this as a strategic tool. It's not a silver bullet, right? Now, here's some great here's a great website that you can use. It's a great resource. It's from Freddie Mac. It's called DPA1. And it's a national directory that shows which down payment assistance programs might be available for a specific property. So you just create your free login at dpa1.freddiemac.com. And once you're in, you can plug in a property address, see who could apply. But you've got to remember, just because a program shows up doesn't mean the borrower qualifies or that it's available. It's a research tool, not a guarantee. It doesn't have your nonprofits or anything on there, so it is more your typical, there's a couple of loan programs on there. There's typically the state programs and your county programs. So think of it as a conversation starter with your lender and your buyer, not the final answer. And also, it's really great to add that into a listing presentation to show that you're doing research on the home, saying, hey, we can also attract buyers. We are flipping from a seller's market to a more neutral market. I personally wouldn't call it a buyer's market yet, but more neutral. So to get extra buyers into to want to see the house, maybe it's nice to advertise some of those down payment assistance programs. That's completely up to you. But again, it's there to help, right? All right. So how do you use this as an agent? I'm running light today. You use it to attract more conversations. You use this to talk to renters, teachers, first-time buyers who think homeownership is out of reach. You use it to position yourself as a knowledgeable but not pushy real estate agent. And you partner early with your lender so the buyer can be pre-qualified within the right parameters or pre-approved within the right parameters before they fall in love with the home, right? So that's how you use this. Okay, it's like a nice hook. For now, in closing, at the end of the day, these programs, they are incredible when used the right way. But our job as agents and lenders is to make sure the client understands both the benefits and the boundaries. Down payment assistance isn't about free money. It's about opportunity, responsibility, and teamwork. And when we lead with clarity instead of hype, we build stronger clients, smoother transactions, and a much better reputation. So don't view it as free money. View it as an opportunity. And if you do that, everything will kind of fall into place the way it should be. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching the replay. If you use any of this information that we've gone over to get a new deal or find a new client or update a client, the only ask that I have is that you give me a chance, make an introduction. Again, it just, it helps all of us go through. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Paula Hune with Funding America Mortgage. I will see you next week. We're down to 2 more weeks left. Next week, I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about renovation loans. I love these loans. I love these loans so much, and they are so underutilized in our area, and they can really help your buyers and sellers. And then finally, we're going to be talking about arms and buy downs, and realizing how we can use that to help your clients in this current market and area. So that's another thing I'm very excited for because I love those products and they really can help the right clients. So hopefully I'll see you all next week. If not, I'll see you on the replay. Have a great week. Sell some homes.